Cash is king if you know how to use it correctly. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And our problem starts in the very beginning, because instead of us leveraging cash, what we do is we leverage money that we haven't earned yet, and we end up paying interest. And the interest that we're spending has us spinning our wheels, and we aren't able to move on to the next step of creating multiple streams of income. So when we think about multiple streams of income, we have to think about diversification, and diversification across different asset classes. Asset classes like cash for one, which is going to be our main income. 2 would be equity. 3 would be real estate. Another would be commodities, stocks, bonds, things of that nature. But we can't even get there because we don't have no money. And this became very apparent for Carmen and I years ago when we found ourselves about $100,000 in debt. What that meant is all of our income that was coming in was going to mostly pay off the debt that we have, because we leveraged the money that we don't have, and the money that came in, we had to use it to pay on debt, meaning we were paying interest. And what that did is that prevented us from moving forward. The reason why we're sharing this information is because most people spend 30% of their income just on debt. That's 30% of their income that comes in, not talking about interest, not talking about their mortgage. We're just talking about debt. They're spending on interest. So how can most of us move forward if we taking a 30% haircut off top?
Mm-hmm. So what Darius is essentially talking about is consuming. How can we reduce?
I said all that to say go ahead.
So stop consuming. So the idea is, how can we be more strategic with our funds so that we're not spending all of our time and energy digging ourselves out of a hole? How do we create a mountain out of cash and surplus capital? So what we want to talk about is that was the problem, right? Now let's move on to talking about the solution and making sure that you understand how to diversify, what to do if you should be so fortunate to get out of debt, and then you can start looking into investing in your 7 streams of income, right? Because the title of the video is Stop Chasing 7 Streams of Income. And the reason why we said that is because we don't want you to get distracted from A. A is to get out of debt. Right. Once you get out of debt, now let's then look at how to create 7 streams of income. Because what you typically see is on Instagram and on TikTok and things like that, things look super sexy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But for us, we also want to be realist, we also want to be realist and recognize, like, a lot of us just have to stay focused in getting out of debt and staying out of debt.
Right.
Right.
And that means managing the money that we have.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't manage the money we have, we're not going to be able to manage more money in the future, which is why a lot of lottery winners, they end up spending all of their money because they don't know how to manage their money, the foundation from the very start. Mm-hmm. So managing our money is very, very important to allowing ourselves to have surplus capital, because there was a plan in place that had to happen in order for that to happen. It doesn't just happen by chance. It happens by way of having a good plan and good ideas and good execution on the ideas that we have in place.
Now, what is, Darius mentioned surplus capital. What is surplus capital? Capital is the money that you have left over that isn't being spent on your expenses, your needs, right? So we understand you have to pay for the roof over your house. You have to pay for transportation, for your childcare, for all of those things. What is left over, and especially after you paid yourself first, right? What's left over is the cash that we can use to leverage to make more money, right? So let's talk about one way in which you can make more money. The very first thing is, I think that you should invest in a strategic play and having some cash on hand. So having an emergency fund, or even potentially 6 months worth of your income. Both of those are savings opportunities, so that if something comes up, you're not derailed from your investment opportunities because you have savings in place. You see how that works?
Right, because you don't have to pay interest on the money that you have to use from emergencies. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we get in trouble because an emergency comes up and we don't have any money saved, and we have to use credit cards, and we end up paying interest. And it's just a vicious cycle that continues to happen over and over again. So I love what you said, is the fact that we need to have money saved up so that in the event something happens, we don't have to go into debt and pay interest on that problem.
Yeah. Now the theme, like the overarching theme, let's throw this on the text, is cash available when you need to buy something. right? So that's asset class number one, cash that is available when you need to buy something. We didn't say debt. We said cash that is available, right? Cash is king if you use it correctly.
Right.
Now, point number two, let's talk about another way that you could use your cash responsibly is when you own a piece of a business. What is that called? Equity. You can do that with EFTs, mutual funds, with stocks. This is an opportunity for you to potentially put some of that surplus capital into stocks where you can have ownership in a business, right? And again, this is baby steps. The thing that I want to make sure that you understand is what we're mentioning here is something that you can have interest in. We're not saying you have to do it. We only recommend that you invest in things that you actually have interest in, because we know that you're going to follow up and track and see what's going to happen. The idea is for you to have money in a few different asset classes so that you can diversify and have money in different asset classes. The next opportunity is something we called fixed income. So we'll put this on the screen, where it is you're lending money to someone else. Banks do this all the time. So do you have opportunities to lend money to family and friends, and you're in small increments, however it works for you, so that you can help them satisfy their financial need, but also being able to pay you interest? That is another opportunity that you have to diversify, create other streams of income. The next one is real estate, having ownership in a physical place. So are you interested in residential or commercial real estate? That might be another subject that you start researching to determine if this is something that you have an interest in. And then again, you can apply surplus capital there.
Right. And I love the fact of the things that Carmen is going over, because these are things that we already participate in. We already participate in every single one of these things, be it equities that we buy in a business, because Amazon is a business that you can buy into through the stock market. And Lord knows that we invest a lot in Amazon through Amazon, especially Amazon Prime Day that just passed. We have to tame the beast of paying interest in order for us to earn interest. And we are able to manage our money when it's things that we are already participating in. Mm-hmm. We're not telling you to do things that you're not already doing, or a necessity that you don't already need. Mm-hmm. So we have to really take in consideration what are the battles that we are currently fighting, and we don't want to throw lighter fluid on those problems. What we want to do is solve those problems right now at its foundation, at its infancy, and then move on to the opportunities that presents itself when we have a solid foundation to stand on.
Mm-hmm. Now, and then the last one that I'll leave with you all is commodities, right? So do you want to invest in gold, silver, and oil, for example? Do you want to have ownership in goods? So these are just things that you can start asking yourself when you have cash available. Now you sit down and look in the mirror and say, what am I interested in? Let's go shopping. Where do I want to start placing my money so I can create a return, and I can start having my income do the work, as opposed to me always having to go to work, right? And the point of these 7 streams of income is that you're sending the surplus capital out to any of these opportunities, so that you can allow that money to start making money, so that it can generate passive income for you.
Right. And that's the money that you want to spend.
Now, this is information that Darius and I had to learn over time, because we were very much overwhelmed with the idea of investing. For me personally, I'm going to say that it was somewhat overwhelming and intimidating.
It was overwhelming for me too.
Okay. I didn't want to just sign you up for that train, but listen, for me, that's how I felt. It was just one of those things where I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this. I don't even know if I want to dedicate the time to it. But as I was able to learn and understand these 5 asset classes, for example, and learning which ones I have interest in, real estate, for example, that's something that Darius and I are definitely very passionate about. And then recognizing how can we send our surplus capital to the real estate box, right? And be able to have our surplus capital make money in real estate and bring it back. And once we did that a time or two, it made sense. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what they mean by another stream of income. Because what we learned very quickly in our marriage was when Darius was laid off, we recognize the value in having multiple streams of income, because when one income is just turned off overnight, that really can supercharge or wake you up and having you recognize what you need to do. So with this video, we hope that we made it simple, something easy to digest, and stating the problem. The first, like we said, is you have to get out of debt. We know that
you have to manage your money.
You have to get out of debt and you have to manage your money. We know that the average American is spending more money in interest than they're saving. So if you're spending more money on interest, that means you don't have the money to save or that surplus capital that you need to start investing to make more money. And what we all want to do is retire, right? Leave our job at some point, and we can't do that if we're constantly paying money and interest.
Right. And one thing I want to say is the fact that we have to be aware of where we are mentally.
Ooh, good one.
At this point in time, where are we as far as our financial literacy? Because in the beginning, for Carmen and I, we were focused on paying off debt because that's where we were mentally to pay off our debt. Next, once we got past that, we were able to start focusing on building on that foundation and start investing in opportunities that presents itself. We couldn't get to that point because we were so focused and spending all of our mental capacity on how do we get out of debt. Now, where you are as far as your financial intelligence, where you are is going to dictate what you decide to focus on. A lot of times we want to take a look at different asset classes when we don't have the capacity to identify exactly what we need to do. It's because our brain power is so fixated on the problems that we are facing right now to where we can't even think about anything else.
Yeah, and it goes back to also to thinking about scarcity versus abundant thinking, right? If you always think that you'll never have enough, having a conversation like this is going to be very difficult for you because you're already thinking that you never have enough, as opposed to thinking that money is just a tool and there's an abundance of money and you can be as creative as you want to make this happen, right? So the information that we're sharing with you, exactly like you said, I'm so glad you said this and we should have started with this, was just you're only going to be as successful financially as your mental capacity can carry you.
Right. So if you want more information on additional streams of income that you can create, check out our next video.
And remember to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else definitely will.